Hello, dear friends. There is no obligation to believe anything Cobra says, but this would explain a lot if it were true. We have to continue with our boring life until the time comes when the big breakthrough. When it happens, the changes will be fast and intense. Opinion piece. Aldebaran Plan. They supported Trump. First contact operation. Disclosure is unavoidable. Russians and Chinese said no. They failed with Russia and China. They want to cooperate with the US. February and March will be critical. The final phase of the plan is the event. They want to contact Trump and Musk. Maria Orsic was rescued by the Aldebarans. Let's start. Aldebaran, or Alpha Tauri, is the brightest star in the Taurus constellation and the 13th brightest in the night sky. Aldebaran is a red giant, which means it is cooler than the Sun, with a surface temperature of 3,900 degrees Celsius. But its radius is about 44 times that of the Sun, making it more than 400 times brighter. Aldebaran's name comes from Arabic, meaning the one that follows, in reference to the fact that this star follows the Pleiades constellation in its nightly journey across the sky. Many popular fables use it to designate the persevering human being who doesn't accept defeat. According to Preston B. Nichols, in his book Contact with the Pleiades, although the beings of Aldebaran are Pleiadians, they are closer to the Orion group. They do not strictly follow the non-interference code of the other Pleiadian groups and could come to this planet in a rescue operation if they consider fair. The Aldebarans are a neutral space exploring species. The warrior Pleiadians of Aldebaran are the ones who contacted Maria Orsic and induced her to protect the Aryan race. They thought they were protecting their brothers, and have sometimes taken their intention to extremes. The goal of the Aldebarans is to observe and guide other species in their evolutionary path. The inhabitants of Arian are Caucasian-looking humans, descended from the later system, some with elongated eyes of Oriental appearance. Men are 2.30 meters tall, and women are 2 meters tall. They have different hair colors, brown, red, and even blue. They live more than 4,700 Earth years. There are two human races living in the Aldebaran star system. The first is 8-dimensional. They have translucent, shiny skin of gray or purple color, with black or blue hair. Their eyes are purple or blue. This race has the ability to sing sirens, and their voices are hypnotic, so they can hypnotize people by creating mental suggestions. Operation. The first official and public contact with humanity operation was entrusted to the Aldebarans, not the Pleiadians, as the contactee Cobra said 2 years ago. It reveals that the humans of Aldebaran are trying to get in touch with Donald Trump and Elon Musk as world leaders at this moment in history. From February to March 2025, the Aldebarans will review the performance of the Trump administration and then decide on their next actions. They also intend to contact some general surface population before next March. We will see how this all turns out. The Aldebarans have taken the position of the Pleiadians to have the first contact with surface humanity. Their mentality and physical appearance are very similar to that of humanity, so it is not a problem for us to interact with them. On the other hand, the Pleiadians are like a group of gods who might be too subtle for humans to get along with. The Aldebarans started influencing the world situation about 2 years ago. At that time, the Pleiadians were worried that they couldn't meet the timetable of the plan. Therefore, the plan had to be changed. So the Aldebarans took over because they know how to deal with humankind more easily, and they know how to deal with the Draconians. Most of the top politicians are Draconians. The Aldebarans have a lot of experience with them, so they know how to deal with them. The Aldebarans are beings of light. They are the main cosmic race in the liberation process. They have taken on many missions that used to be assigned to the Pleiadians. It has been discovered that the Aldebarans are much easier for humanity to handle. The Pleiadians will work much more closely with the missionaries of light and the energy grid, while the Aldebarans will deal with the majority of humankind. Cooperation. After many failures, the only option left for the Aldebarans was to connect with top US politicians. So the Aldebarans started supporting Donald Trump to become president. After he takes office, there will be an opportunity for the Aldebarans to communicate with him and Elon Musk directly. Right now, the success rate of this plan is estimated at around 40 to 45%. If Trump cooperates, we could have a fairly easy transition to full disclosure. The Aldebarans can contact Trump and Musk officially, and with their cooperation, partial disclosure could immediately begin. With that timetable, this could happen between February or March of this year. Information could start being released in April if this cooperation is successful. If Trump doesn't want to cooperate, or he is not even contacted, there would be another possible timeline. In that case, the Aldebarans would have to work against the Trump administration. It would be a difficult timeline, but we know that disclosure must happen one way or another. In this second option, but they would no longer collaborate with high-level politicians to bring the truth to the people on the surface. This second option is much more confrontational, and there is possibility that escalation will occur more easily. Contact. Cobra adds that there is a US military faction that is open to communicating with the Aldebarans. Some uniformed personnel who experienced extraterrestrial communication decades ago are more likely to cooperate with the Aldebarans. Both the Russians and the Chinese had said no. If this military faction also says no, the Aldebarans will no longer deal with Earthlings and will carry out their plans in their own way. It would be wise for the generals to cooperate with the Aldebarans because this would be their last chance, says Cobra. Cobra reveals that in 2021, the Pleiadians contacted with some high-ranking Russian leaders and asked them to simply take a defensive stance in Crimea. The Russian generals panicked and communication between the two sides was not smooth. In 2022, Russia entered Ukraine. The negotiation with China was also a failure. The Aldebarans contacted the Chinese military leaders in the hope of working together for planetary liberation. The Aldebarans didn't mention the event and tried to be very nice and subtle during the conversation. However, the reaction of the Chinese was even worse. An interstellar war almost broke out between the Aldebarans and the Chinese military. Bases. The Aldebarans have started to be very active this year. Their most ships have already entered our solar system. They have built bases on different moons and asteroids in our solar system. They have also built bases on the far side of the moon and on Earth, especially underground and at the bottom of the sea. They have finally emerged to the surface around the last June 2024 and have come into contact with some of the world's top leaders. The surface population still has many unhealed traumas, so it is very difficult for humans to have good cooperation with other star races. If humanity is not willing to cooperate, the Aldebarans have their own plan. Sometimes humans need to be taught a lesson, or even shock therapy, so that they are willing to open their eyes. The surface population will know that there are extraterrestrial intelligent lives, regardless of whether human governments publicly admit this fact or not. Infiltration. According to Cobra, special forces from Aldebaran and Andromeda have been deployed on the surface world since October. They are using cloned human bodies, so they look like Earth humans. You cannot tell that they are extraterrestrial judging by their physical appearance. Their special forces acted on the surface world, especially in conflict zones and battlefields. They have prevented many serious war crimes. Aldebarans and Andromedans have infiltrated secret service and intelligence agencies around the world. The Aldebarans are using clones avatars to replace the West humans working in intelligence agencies. The person who was replaced by an avatar will be sent to a galactic court. His behavior will determine his fate. This process of infiltration will continue to a certain point, and then there will be a next phase of this operation which Cobra cannot yet reveal. The final phase of Aldebaran's plan is the event. When the event occurs, Aldebarans, Andromedans, and the resistance movement will work with the forces of light for a mass arrest of the iniquitous. If Joe Biden is still alive after the event, he could be brought before a galactic court as an indictee, according to Cobra. Collaboration. The Aldebarans worked closely with secret space programs. They contacted Maria Orsic and ordered her to create part of the German secret space program. Now she is working closely with the Aldebarans and the Pleiadians. This means that Maria Orsic was not killed by the Nazis because of her pacifism, as some speculate, but was extracted by the Aldebarans in a rescue operation. The Aldebarans and the Pleiadians have been quite active throughout human history, while the former focus on genetic engineering. The Aldebarans hoped to improve human genes, but the Dracos infiltrated Safi society and then affected human genes negatively. The Aldebarans were very active in the Sumerian civilization and in ancient India. They had a nuclear war with the Dracos and lost it, unfortunately. Radioactivity can be detected in a desert in Rajasthan because an ancient nuclear war broke out in that area. The last time the Aldebarans were active in human history was during the Tang dynasty of China. In fact, they helped the Li family establish the Tang dynasty. Intervention. Last time, when we reached critical mass for the petition for direct divine intervention in December 2021, that petition was legally binding for the light forces to intervene on the surface of the planet. Immediately after the petition, a week or two later, the Pleiadians contacted Putin and some high-ranking Russian military generals and proposed their plan for the event and planetary ascension. What happened was that the generals became completely scared. They understood that their Russia would not remain the same as it had been on a new ascended planet. The relationship between Russia and the Pleiadians deteriorated dramatically, and Putin also made a strategic mistake by joining with China and attacking Ukraine. Before that time, Putin listened to the advice of the Pleiadians and was very successful. He was against the idea of a war against Ukraine, but this time he didn't listen to them. The result was many deaths on both sides. Since then, the Pleiadians only maintained minimal contacts with the Russian generals for the sole purpose of avoiding conflict. After that failure, the Aldebarans decided to contact the surface politicians when the time was right. In 2020, they began to settle in the solar system. They began to build bases on the moon and under the ocean floor on this planet. They were progressing well. There were bases underwater and underground. In June 2024, The Aldebarans contacted the top generals of China. They were much more careful than the Pleiadians in revealing their plan. But the result was even worse. An interplanetary war almost broke out in certain secret underground bases in China. Disclosure. When the anomaly is sufficiently removed, the event can be triggered. The Aldebarans are presented in many underground locations. They have infiltrated the surface system structure. That infiltration process will be completed in a few months. When the time is right, they could emerge very quickly from the surface of the planet and start transmitting the great disclosure. The problem is the surface population. People don't want to disconnect from their matrix. Another problem is the legal problem. The Aldebarans are not legal representatives of planet Earth. Legally speaking, it would be an act of invasion. Therefore, the actual plan will be a little different, but I don't know the details. The Pleiadians have another plan. It is the contact antenna project. Those who wish to have the first contact with the Pleiadians must have a piece of land on their own for the contact, and they must telepathically give permission to the Pleiadians to use their territory, because they cannot invade their property without legal permission. At a certain time, these contacts must occur, and governments cannot stop them. At that time, certain specific protocols will be released for the safety of certain missionaries of the light who invoked the contact antenna project. Some will be given advanced Pleiadian technology as proof. They will be able to show this technology on television as proof that the Pleiadians exist. It will occur in many places at the same time, and it would be impossible to suppress them. When scientists investigate that technology, they will discover that it is far beyond our current technology. Regardless of the suppression of dark forces, disclosure is unavoidable at some point or another. Part of the progress in recent weeks is that the Pleiadians are not only underground, they could be above ground. Final stage. Now we are in the final stage. It will not be easy, although it will be a great challenge. But in the end, we will be free. This is a challenge because the light forces have to be very careful. While battles are going on in the solar system, we are safe here. Nothing happens here. We just lead a boring everyday life with things happens elsewhere. But now things are happening on the surface. It is much more dangerous because conflicts are happening before our eyes. The Aldebarans are bringing in very advanced technologies to reduce the amount of violence. They have actually prevented many conflicts, wars, escalations, and terrorism in the past few months. They have prevented many physical attacks and many things dangerous for the light missionaries. At this very delicate time, Cobra cannot give too much information. Only when some operations are carried out, he will be able to explain what is happening. The first part of this year, especially February and March, will be a critical period. When we go through that period, everything will become a little easier. It's very important that you use common sense. There will be a lot of craziness in the surface society. A lot of crazy people are doing a lot of crazy things. Common sense will be the key for February and March. The second part of January will also be quite intense. Enjoy the last period of peace because after that everything will be crazy. Use common sense. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.